So thank you so much for joining us. Those of you who don't know, my name is Kayleen Harrington, and I say recently, 6 months ago, I guess I've got to stop that now, I joined the Norfolk Chamber of Commerce as their events manager. So as you can imagine, we had to chuck the event planner out the window and start from scratch with our virtual offering. So I really hope you've been enjoying that. So before I get started, I'm extremely excited to let you know that our flagship event, the Big Debate 2021, is live on our website and going virtual for the first time. Shocking, I know. This high-profile annual event is a key date in the commercial calendar for the start of 2021. On Friday the 5th of February, we'll be bringing together Norfolk MPs and local business leaders to discuss and debate issues affecting businesses in the region. So I'm pleased to let you know the topics this year will be beyond Brexit, people and skills, climate change and going green, and rebuilding the economy. I'll include in the chat function a link to the event page where you can find out more details and book your place. So thank you so much for joining our first recovery program event of 2021, sorry. This series has been designed to support businesses to restart, rebuild and renew. So do you have a website? Is it working for you or against you? Maybe you're just about to create a website and don't know where to start. Whatever stage you are at with your website, you can't afford not to manage this highly valuable business resource. So in this 2-hour virtual masterclass, Kathy Ennis, founder of Little Piggy, and Emma Good, founder of CEO of 24 Fingers, will help you understand how to plan your website, how to integrate your brand, prioritizing usability, and preparing for SEO. During the presentation, there will be live Q&As where Kathy and Emma will answer your questions. There'll also be a comfort / not comically intended hot beverage break at approximately 11 o'clock. So before I hand over, let's see what the poll results were. So let's end, and you should be able to see these on your screen. So we've got 17% I don't have one, interesting, 63% I have one but looking for a bit of inspiration, and 20% going for a remodel. Love that. So please use the Q&A function when you have any questions, and Kathy, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kayleen. Happy New Year to everybody here. Emma and I hope that you're going to enjoy the session today. My name is Kathy Ennis. I'm from Little Piggy. I'm based in West Norfolk. I'm a business mentor and trainer. I specialise in working with micro businesses, freelancers, people who are single person businesses a lot of the time, not exclusively, but that's my main cohort. And for me, it's about getting them to understand business within their business. And the thing to do with websites and why this is really key to me is that most of the clients that I work with are people who don't have a high street presence. Their shop is their website. So it's making sure that that place that they are sending people to is actually doing what it should be doing for them in terms of themselves and their businesses. So I work very much on the strategy side, what things could and should be doing. And then when it comes to some of the basics and the implementation and all of that kind of thing, that's where my lovely colleague Emma Good comes in. So I'll pass over to Emma.
Hi everyone, and thanks so much for letting me travel over the border from Essex to Norfolk. Great as always to be with Norfolk Chambers. I love making that leap. So Kathy kindly introduced me. 24 Fingers. We are a digital marketing agency helping people that are all fingers and thumbs with things like their social media, their content marketing, their email newsletters, blogging, etc. Business owners are told nowadays that they've got to be posting 24/7, 3 times a day on every single platform, and the reality is somewhat different. So we demystify all of that stuff and give people really practical tips about how they can make their social media work harder for them, and not just get seen, but actually get more business out of social media, cut through the noise, cut through all the chat, and actually add to your bottom line. So Emma Good, 24 Fingers, really pleased to be here with you today.
Thanks so much, Emma. And I think that one of the things to say is that Emma and I both run our own businesses that we've just explained, but we do actually work together quite closely on lots of projects. And under that heading, that's where we work as an organisation called 24 Degrees, which is, and it's 24 Degrees that is bringing you this session today. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to pull up the slides that we're going to be going through today. As Kayleen said, we're actually going to be looking at this very much in terms of the practical ways of doing things. So we want you to be able to ask us questions. So we want you to ask questions in the chat function as we're going through, and what we will do is we'll make sure that Kayleen, when we stop, Kayleen's going to do the Q&A with us so that we can keep it as interactive as possible. And now with the lovely Zoom, as Zoom always does, it's hiding my button, so I'm going to actually go and my button there, so that's fine. So yeah, we are coming at this as a 101, so it's very much about the basics. We are not saying that we are website extraordinary people. What we're coming from in terms of this is very much the practicalities of what your website should do for you and for your business. We do help people with their websites, and we do have a team of people that can actually build websites. But where we concentrate on, and with a lot of our clients, is this thing doing for you what you want it to do? And that's where we want to go through with you today. Is what's your website for? What are you using it for? What do you want it to do? Those sorts of things. So I'm just going to see whether. Yes, it does move like that. So that's us. You're going to get a copy of these slides after the session. I know Kayleen's going to send them out to you, so you'll have all of this information as we go through. So that's us. And just want to go over the things that we're going to cover. So we're going to look at why a website's important for your business, because there are some people who are running businesses without a website, and I think that there is a reason why you do need one. So we're going to cover that. We're going to look at where the website sits in this cycle that you need to have running in terms of engaging customers and leading through to conversion. We're going to look at how to plan a website and the sorts of things that you need to consider in terms of some of the basic structure, some design ideas and in terms of best practice, and then just a little bit about SEO. So that's really the structure of today. Emma, is there anything you want to put in there?
No, I think I'm going to add in how your website works with social and why you can't just do social. I'm the social media flag bearer, but in this case, absolutely website and social go together like hand in glove. Just because you're on Facebook doesn't mean so that you can get away with not having a website.
Yeah, and we'll make it plain as to why we think that as we go through. So first things first is when we start thinking about planning. Now, a lot of you said that you were looking for inspiration. Some of you have said in the poll that you haven't got a website yet, and some of you are looking at perhaps doing a refresh. And I think that whatever stage you're at, you need to be asking yourself these questions. And I will put a proviso in here as well. Websites have fashion trends. I think that's the easiest way to describe it. As technology develops, so does the way websites work. And if we are not regularly reviewing the way our website works, we could actually be doing ourselves a bit of a disservice. So even though people may have a website, you need to regularly look to make sure that it's doing what modern websites can do. which is why when clients often say to Emma and I, oh, I'm so glad the website's finished, we then throw that massive cold bucket of water on top of them and say, it's never finished, because there's always a need to refresh and renew. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is why you want a website, what it's for, who it's for, and what do you want it to do. And I think if we're looking at why a website, my biggest thing around this is that the vast majority of businesses in the UK are what I call hidden businesses. They don't operate on a high street, they don't have a shop front, they don't have a door for customers necessarily to walk through. So you need something out there that's actually going to be your showcase, your showpiece, that people can walk into, but they can walk into on the internet high street, if you want to put it that way. Yeah, Emma.
I don't know whether the Bluetooth gremlins are out this morning, but your sound is going in and out. Shall I carry on this bit while you have a fix on?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a little bit off. So yeah, I'll have a look here.
Okay, cool. So as said, before we spend any money on website development, we need to think about why we're actually doing it, because especially right now, none of us need to be spending money on stuff that isn't going to convert, number one. We need to work out what that website is going to actually do for our business. Of course, it's going to be a shop window, but we actually want it to help people, and we want it to help people get what they need quickly, easily, and ideally through us. There's millions of people doing what we all do. We need to make sure that our website actually stands out and helps people fulfill a need there and then. When we're planning a website, we need to think who's it actually for. That's really going to determine what type of website we have. If it's an e-commerce website that we want people to buy our products and services from, we're going to go down a particular avenue. If it's a portfolio website, if it's a website where we just need to talk about our personal brand, each of those options will determine what type of website we have, what platform it's built on, and effectively how much it's going to cost us, because each of those options are priced at a different package. And what do you want it to do? What do you actually want that website to do? Do you want it to give you leads daily? Do you want it to actually sell off the shelf? Have a think about what the primary objective is of that website is before you do anything else. Kathy and I were talking to a client who runs a brilliant yoga business yesterday. She needs just a very standard template based website, really cost effective. They need to get onto that website, they need to sign up for her guides on how to manage dry January. I have to say I will not be managing dry January. I think dry January in lockdown is a step too far for anybody, but she needs a really, really functional website, no bells and whistles. The next client we spoke to needs an integrated e-commerce platform where people can buy subscription models and have a payment gateway. That's a very different animal. So do think about what your primary and ultimate objective is for your website before you spend any money.
Absolutely. Hopefully, can you hear me now?
Hear you now.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Santa brought me a new computer for Christmas, and I'm still working out some of the kinks and tweaks. And I think I'll just throw in here, because there's one word that I want you to bear in mind as we go through all of this, and the word is conversion. Because at heart, what we want our websites to do is to convert visitors into customers. So we really need, all of those things that Emma spoke about there in terms of why we're doing what we're doing and what we're doing this for, is that we need to think about the customer journey. We need to think about the ease of movement around our site. We need to think about clarity in terms of what we're offering, and I think that, as I say, this seamless lead through to conversion. And I think it will become apparent as we go through that we need to consider the form versus the function. And I think that often people obsess about the form of the thing. What does it look like? And that is important, but the key thing you've got to think about is, how does it work? What does it do? And exactly as Emma said, if you have a model for a business that is one thing, that a website such as X has got may not be the right website for you. So I think that's really quite a crucial point. Okay, so this is where me and Emma jump in and out, because this is thinking about where the website sits in terms of all of the other things that we're doing. And this is why I believe that every business, regardless of size, scope, scale, should have a website. Now, when I'm talking about a website, I don't necessarily mean that every business needs something with bells and whistles and all of that kind of stuff happening. They don't even need to have a website that is sort of multiple pages. They can have something quite sleek and centralized, but they do need it because the website is yours. There is ownership of this. This belongs to you. This is your shop front. This is where you can showcase who you are, everything that you do, and how you help people. All of the other peripheral things, like having social media platforms, that kind of stuff, they will show an inkling of what you do and how you do it. The other thing is that you don't 100% own the stuff that goes out in those places. So this is why your website is so crucial. And I think, as I said, it needs to be user friendly, it needs to be engaging, and you need something that helps you to convert visitors to contacts. This is one of the biggest things. What do you want somebody to do when they go on there? You don't want them to come on and then go away. You want them to leave a footprint in some way. So this is a conversion thing. So Emma, tell people how you convert people in terms of what you do.
Okay, so I'll give you an example from this week. I'm really conscious that we're all heading back into work feeling quite positive until we got our next lockdown announcement, and suddenly everyone's like, oh my God. And there's so many business owners that are having to repivot. This week, Kathy and I have got a lot of retail clients. So beauty salons, for example, one of our clients has shut 3 times. Absolutely awful. So her January has been effectively wiped out. So I was really conscious that people probably didn't have time to be planning their social media content for January, because they were going down one path and then suddenly been told by the government that they've got to shut down. So on Monday, I created a guide to all of the national trending days in January. So you've probably seen those on social media. Put those together. There's probably 200 ideas for small businesses to use on social in this one guide. I popped that out on my social media and my website on Monday, and I've already had, I think, 79 leads into the business in 2 days just from that one piece of content. It took me maybe 2-3 hours to produce in total, and for me to get 80 leads from that one piece of work, brilliant. That will run now for another week. I've just set up a Facebook campaign to promote it as well. And of course, I've done it for this January, but that can be reused every January from now on. That probably cost me, Kathy, it was £150, 3 hours work, 79 leads. Was that £2 a lead? Well, I'm really happy to pay £2 a lead. So yeah, that's what I've been doing this week.
And this is the mainstay of it, is that you can operate all of this out from your website. It's a little bit like the center of a flower. Everything else comes out from this space. And what we're actually doing is the stuff that we're doing on the outside is pushing people back towards that central space, that website. So what we do is we make it user-friendly and engaging. We create content that entices them to stay in touch. So things like having a regular blog that goes onto your website, brilliant for your SEO, but also a great way of showing your expertise. You can then use that content to create social posts, to do I do a weekly email that I send out to my list. And basically all it is saying, hey, look, this is my latest blog, this is what I'm covering, it may well be of interest to you. They don't care, you know, about me and my day-to-day life. I'm not going to share that in a newsletter, but actually something that can help them stay safe, stay healthy, stay mentally stable in terms of running their business. That's really what I'm after, and also giving them tips, tools, and those kinds of things. So that is the sort of thing that we can use our website to do. This is functionality. This is the kind of stuff that I was saying about the whole form versus function. The next thing is about making sure that we keep that engagement consistent. So as I said, I send out an email on a Monday morning, 9:25 a.m. because my idea is that I want to give people something that they can think about during the week that might help their business. Emma, yours is Friday afternoons at 4, is it?
Friday afternoon at 4.
Yeah. So, and it's people get to expect. I've had people contact me to say over Christmas, say, I didn't get your weekly email. I said, no, you didn't. I'm on holiday too. So, you know, that's very much about what we're looking for. We can then, as I said, we can use that stuff that we're creating from our website through our website. We can then use that to share out socially. What happens then is, fingers crossed, and if we're doing it right, which is obviously where Emma comes in my mind, is that other people then share our stuff. So we put things out, and what we should actually be aiming towards is that people like it, but also that they share it with their communities. Because what then happens is that it either pushes them back to us directly, or it encourages them to push other people that they know back towards our website. But what you can see from this cycle is that everything is leading people back to that one space. It's a bit like the difference between during the first lockdown last year, we had a building project going on that had to stop. And then as soon as the builders were allowed to come back, the shops still weren't open, but we had no furniture. So I was online buying stuff from places like Wayfair so that we actually had something to sit on, and looking on the company's websites for ideas and inspiration. But it was only when the shops reopened that I was able to go into the shops and sit on the sofa that I really wanted to use. So that's my analogy for what's going on here, is the fact that people might see elements of what you can do, but it's only when they get into your website, it's only when they get into your internet high street shopfront that they can see really who you are, what you do, how it, how they can engage with you, and the kinds of things that they can buy from you. So anything to add in there, Emma?
Yeah, I just wanted to give an example here. So I was talking to a prospective client just before Christmas, and he's got a commercial fit-out company. So they're targeting facilities managers, office managers that need refurbs. And it's a new business, and they've been going, I think, 3 to 6 months, and they're really struggling to get leads into the business. And he said to me, look, I just want leads. So I came back with a proposal that included Google Ads, included brand awareness, social media, and included content marketing. And he read the proposal and he said, but that's all great, but I just want leads. I just want leads. The danger with just wanting leads is you automatically think, oh, it needs to be a Google Ads campaign. The trouble with that is that somebody would click on a Google Ads campaign, go to your website, and if it's not engaging, if it's not up to date, if they go onto the social media and they see that you haven't posted for 6 months, immediately that's going to wipe out the benefit of you spending money on Google Ads. And for me, it's so important that you do everything consistently but strategically and together. Each bit of the puzzle needs to be up to date, brand, like aligned with the brand. It needs to be consistent, because if you miss out any one of those puzzles, you're going to give somebody a poor impression. And all the money you spent on Google, all the money you spent on Facebook advertising will be undone when they see that you haven't updated your website in 6 months. So, I don't want to say you can't have one without the other, but you can't have one without the other. You know, do it properly and do all of the puzzle, and it will really work for you, rather than just relying on one aspect of this stuff. because, as Kathy always says, you know, we can all put stuff out on Facebook, but it's not our own stuff. Facebook own it. We can all spend money on Google, and when Google crashes like it did before Christmas, we're all buggered. So we need to make sure that all the puzzles completed.
Absolutely, it's not one thing, and this is why sometimes it gets a little bit worrying, because when you go down a rabbit hole and you think, oh crikey, you know, I've got all of this stuff to do, which is the position I found myself in over Christmas, which is why I'm spending the weekend still working on my website. And it's because one thing leads to another, and this is why you need to go back to those questions. You know, what's it for? Who's it for? What do I want it to do? Because that will actually help you determine these. And if you have got a little bit of a gap in any of these, you know, we talk about a marketing funnel, but often I find that what people are working with is a colander, because there are holes and stuff is falling out. And so that's why we need to be really quite holistic about it. But I would always start from the website and work outwards rather than necessarily outwards and coming in, because that is our ownership. It's intellectual property. Our business owns it. So that's why we really need to protect it. So what I was going to say is, I was going to ask Kaylin if we've had any questions in about that so far.
We've had a great question from Nigel, who asks, can you move to something like an e-commerce website at a later day, even if you've built the website? So I'm going to say plugins, but I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, hi Nigel. I think it's the Nigel that I know, so hello to you. I think the thing is that, why Emma and I are both laughing is that we've had a conversation with a client before Christmas about this very thing, and you can move, but you can actually upgrade. So if Emma and I are both massive proponents of WordPress as a website platform, simply because of its elbow room and flexibility. And depending on the type of business that you are, if you are a shop, you'll need something that's e-commerce really from the get-go, that's got e-commerce elements in it. We work with a client who sells school uniforms, so very much hers is e-commerce driven. Whereas if you are somebody who offers things that people can buy, like courses or books or something like that, you may not need an e-commerce option. And that's where most website building platforms have things that might be described as plugins. So these are bits of code that can be put into the back of the website that allows that extra functionality. So for example, in both, let's say Wix and WordPress, you can do those kinds of things. I think the thing is to start small, but start within a platform that allows you to expand out from it. I am not a massive proponent of built content management systems unless you're a large company. Because to have one that has been built specifically for your business, if you're not particularly savvy, it's actually really quite hard for you to keep it manageable. Whereas if you're in a larger company and you've had this built for you, you've probably got somebody on team, or you've got an outsourced team that will be looking after it for you.
Can I answer the other questions that we've had quickly? So Harry said here, the constant needs for attention on the website has put you off so far. Okay, so I'm going to put your mind at rest, Harry. Working on her website at the weekend, you don't need to. We'd recommend that a website is updated minimum once a month, so that typically would be like a 500-word blog once a month. Ideally, you'd be posting weekly on your blog, but if you can't, the world's not going to fall down and Google's not going to hate you. Once a month is a really realistic timescale for a small business owner to be updating the website. And on our content workshops that Kathy and I run, we've got some really cool ways of working out what you should be putting on your website and how to create blogs easily and quickly. But go for once a month, and I'm hoping that might take the pressure off. We don't need to be doing this stuff daily unless you're Kathy and I, who do this stuff Pleasure. And I'm going to answer Kate's email question, and which platforms do we build in? So Kathy and I's preferred platform is WordPress, but we do build in Squarespace and Wix as well. Each have got their pros and cons. Personally, I find WordPress really stable, really robust, brilliant support, and all the plugins work really, really well with WordPress. There's nothing that you can do that you can't do. And also Google loves WordPress, Wix and Squarespace not so much from an SEO point of view. So yeah, I'd love to talk to you about Squarespace after, if you are having trouble. I'm sure Kathy and I could help take the headache away. Sarah asked, regarding leaving a footprint, how does this happen? Do we have to ask people to open an account to enable them to access our content so that we in turn get their details? So when websites were first introduced to the world, there was a concept that they'd be kind of password protected and only people that left their details would get access to the good stuff. Nowadays, websites are much more open source, so anybody can see anything on the web, and I would encourage that you do let anybody see the content on your website. However, I'd introduce what we call the lead magnet idea. So that's, for example, in my case, the January content calendar. I give that to people in exchange for their email address. And how I do that is really simply, I put a form on my website so people add in their name, add in their email address, and automatically this calendar gets sent to them. That's how they capture their details. And we've doubled our email newsletter during lockdown using that functionality. I think we've got something like we had 276% growth in our email marketing last year, even during lockdown, by using regular lead magnets. And it can be really, really simple. I'm not sure what your business is, but if you pop it into chat, Kathy and I, I'm sure can come up with some ideas about how you can do that email address for content exchange. David Robertson asked, what's a built CMS? So I might ask Kathy to answer that, if that's okay.
Yeah, a content management system is basically the description of the functionality of the website. So it's probably written in some kind of computer-based language like HTML, and there are people out there who will build bespoke ones for companies. So what that will do is it will tell the front end of the website that when you display a page, it looks like this, it does this, it has those kinds of colors, the logo goes here, etc., etc. And a lot of companies, particularly larger companies, would have something like that built for them because it's bespoke, it's owned, and they can make the changes that they want when they want. For most smaller businesses, they would be using what might be called a theme-built website. So, for example, in all of the platforms, there are theme elements that you can get, and basically what it is you go with the best match in terms of, this is the type of homepage I want, this is the type of blog page I want, this is the type of contact page that I want, and then you can change things like the colors. You can say where you want the logo to be, you can change the font so that they match in with your branding, but they're much more, I suppose, prescribed in terms of certain bits of their layout. But the joy with the newer website, I mean, I remember the first ones, on day one of the web, there were 50 websites, and I think there are 50,000 new websites every day now. When we had the original sort of, let's just put our annual report up on the web, it was very flat. Well, now what we've got is we've got a very communicative space. So there are lots of things that you can now put into websites that allow people to communicate with you. I mean, even down to the fact that now you can use things like Facebook Messenger as a chatbot on your website. So there is functionality that you can build like that. So with most websites now, we're going for this pre-designed theme-built thing that you can actually then make subtle changes to make it look different and make it look your own. So that's the difference. So CMS, just put lots and lots of pound signs in front of it, and you'd probably be quite a large business. Marks and Spencer's probably, yeah, I would say theirs is a pre-built one.
I'm just going to answer a couple of more questions. So Sarah said, thanks, that sounds great. She's a wellbeing company. So Sarah, right now I'd be talking about immunity, tips to boost immunity. what with everything going on, that could be a very easy lead magnet for you to do. Alison Bradnock says, I sell through my website. It's a WordPress website. A website designer had said that WordPress sites aren't that secure. Is that true, or was that a way to encourage me to give him more work? So if there's a SSL certificate, then WordPress websites are absolutely secure.
Yeah, and if you use one of the WordPress plugins, and generally if you are offering, I mean, I sell things on my site, but I don't go to the whole shebang, because mainly it's usually books, and then they're not very expensive things. But if you've got lots of things on your site that you sell, if you're using one of the WordPress plugins, shop plugins, I would always go for the purchased version, because that will have much more security based on it. As Emma said, your website has to have an SSL certificate. So this is the thing that puts a little padlock in the URL section, and it turns your website from HTTP to HTTPS. So it means it's much more encrypted. And yeah, that works pretty well. And then if you use a payment methodology that's got a protection around it, like say something like I'd use something like Go Cardless, or you could use PayPal or WorldPay or any of those kinds of things, as the route from which the money goes from them to you. That you should be pretty secure in that.
Nigel's asked a great question about, do sign-up forms put people off? So he finds it that when you have to fill out a form, it puts him off getting the documents. So I would say make the form as simple as possible. On my forms, I literally just put in the email address, and that stops people thinking, oh God, it's going to take me half an hour to fill out the form. He also asked, is there a way of getting their details without filling out the form? I can't think of a way. You'd get their IP address, you could remarket to them on Facebook and your website, so the next time they go on Facebook they could potentially see an ad from you, but there's no way of getting their details unless they fill out a form. But my advice there would be to make the form as simple and as short as possible.
Yeah, I say first name, or I always just say name, and most people just put their first name and then their email address. And the reason I ask for the name is that when I send, because I use an email marketing system, when I send the email out, it actually personalizes the email to that person. So that makes it a better email. The fact is that once you've asked for name and email address, any other factor that you ask for subsequently, you will lose 25% of people. Okay, and if you are using an email marketing platform, you have a big unsubscribe button on that. So if people just want to get your thing and then unsubscribe straight away, which a lot of people do, and I have no problem with that, you've actually put all of those things in there. But the forms don't put people off. People do download stuff all of the time. So yeah, just keep it as simple as you possibly can. Name, email address, and a nice big button that says yes please, I want my copy. That will be fine. The other lead magnet that both Emma and I use, and this is another thing for you all to think about, is that we use a system called Calendly for diary bookings. So I know, for example, Sarah was saying she works in the health and wellness industry. Actually, if you can tie Calendly into your booking system, people can book directly into, say, have a conversation with you, and in that you can ask them a few questions to pre-set that conversation that you're going to have. But as a consequence of that, you get some contact details from them as well, which doesn't mean that you can spam them right, left and center, but it is another way of actually creating. What you're doing is you're creating that first communication point with them. As Emma said, if you're not asking them for name and email address or anything like that, you can use, and we will mention it, things like Facebook have a little pixel, which is a bit of HTML code that you can put at the back of your website. You can actually use that to target people that have visited your website. You don't know who they are, you don't know necessarily where they are. Facebook does in an encrypted form. So you can use that, but it's not as effective as actually being able to say, hi Nigel, how are you today? It's a very, very different thing.
So Davey Robinson's asked, would we consider a bespoke plugin for, say, WordPress a bad idea?
Well, all of the plugins at one point were bespoke because the people that create the plugins, that's what they do for a living. But I would think that you'd need to do masses and masses of road testing of it to make sure that it worked properly, because what you don't want is conflicting code. Now, I'm not a coder, so I wouldn't be able to give you the technicalities of that, but I do find that sometimes when you put one system against another, it's a bit like putting diesel into a petrol car. It sort of works for a while and then it coughs and stops. So, you know, you do need to consider that. Okay. So shall we crack on with the next bit, because we're going to have a break at about 11 o'clock, so everybody can get a cup of tea, and then we'll pick up on some more questions as well. So right, so let's talk about the key sections on a website. In my experience, there are a lot of people who try and be a bit clever, and often it backfires, because we need to make it as easy as possible for people coming to our site to make a decision over whether we're the right people for them to engage with or not. The other side of this is that if you take search engines, and I will use Google as the example because it is, you know, what 98% of internet searches happen on Google. It recognizes terms like home and about and services and blog and contact. So if you're using different things, for example, for your menu, it could confuse people. They may not know where to go, and there is so much choice out there. If people don't know where to go, they'll click out and they'll go somewhere else where it is clearer and it's easier to see. So when we're thinking about a website, we really do need to think about, these are the 5 what I'd call standard column blocks of any website. We need a homepage that is what I'd call almost like an executive summary. It's a jumping off point. It's a place where you can showcase bits and pieces that are happening elsewhere. A really good about section. And it's interesting, I looked at an about page yesterday where it took me, and I did have to persevere, 3/4 of the way down the about page to actually find out the names of the people. There were pictures of them and there was loads of stuff about what we do, but I had no clue who any of them were. And so, you know, clarity is key. Services, what do you do? What do you offer? How do you offer it? Blog, for me, is an essential. And then a simple contact. But I will say about the contact page, if you look on most websites, it is the least used page, because people want to be able to see how to get in contact with you straight away that they get onto your homepage. So yeah, those are the 5 key sections. And when we talk about, Emma and I quite often talk to clients about what we call a 5-page standard website. Doesn't mean you're only restricted to 5 pages, because you might have 3 or 4 things under services, or you might have a couple of things under about, or that kind of, but this is the basic, this is the kind of thing that we're talking about, is actually having something quite standard there like that. Anything to add in there, Emma?
Kate just asked a question. We renamed one of our news pages Blog and Hub. Was this a mistake?
No, I wouldn't say that, but I'd like to know what hub meant.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say that. So we call blog news. No, that's fine, Kate. Google love news. It's fine.
As long as it is news, because this is one of the things that you, if it's news, it needs to be daily or twice daily. And the other thing is, what's it news about? If it's news about what you're doing, people may not be that interested in that. But if it's news about things that you do that help them do what they do, that might be so. So do be aware, if you do make it news, it has to be current. It has to be daily.
or weekly. David Robinson asks, would you say that for a human to navigate a website, having generally recognisable terms for navigation so that people are used to using the site quickly and get around it happily? Yeah, absolutely. Let's not make it difficult for people, because now time
does what it says on the tin. That's really what we're looking at. The other thing I'd say about this as well, and it sort of comes back to the question about news and all of that kind of stuff, is that your website is about your customer. So, and this is where some of the sort of, I won't call them tricks, but the copywriting things become really important, because what you're demonstrating to your prospective customers is that you solve their problems, that you recognize what issues that they've got, and that you solve them. Now, I use a local company for things like candles and that kind of thing. You might think, well, what's her problem? Well, my problem is that I want somewhere local and somewhere that I can support a local company that does good products that I can put in my rooms of my home, so that every time I walk into a room, it smells nice. That might be a first world problem, I don't know. But the fact is, on their website, if they talk about, do you want your room to smell like such and such? Then my answer to that is yes, you're solving a problem for me. So we need to make sure that when we're writing about our customers, not necessarily about ourselves. Or we are writing about ourselves, but in that subtext. The only place really on your website that should be about you is the about page, and this is where you get to be you and talk about who you are, what you do, your story, why you got to be doing what you're doing, you know, all of those light bulb moments, the differences that you make, and I think that's something to be aware of. And if it is only you in the business, please don't use the word we, because people will know. So that's just a bugbear of mine.
And don't refer to yourself as a third person. Like yesterday, I was rewriting a LinkedIn profile for somebody, and I did it in the first person. I am a security expert, and the guy came back and said, "Oh no, Mark is a security expert. No, it's always I or we."
Yeah, and the thing about websites is that the second most viewed web page, if across the internet on websites, is the about page, because what people are doing is they're going there to find out, are these the type of people I want to do business with? So the homepage tends to be the first, but that's because it's like the main place. But people are consciously making a decision that if they come onto a homepage, the first thing they hit is about, not necessarily services, not necessarily blog, not necessarily contact. Who are these people? What do they do? And how do they do it? So yeah, going back to what David said, it's about keeping it plain, simple, to the point, so that people know where to go. Obviously, what you can do is you can have drop downs underneath these that take people off to other sections. And I would actually say that there's one thing I just want to say about services. The temptation with a lot of people is just to have one page where they list everything that they do. That's not brilliant in terms of search engine optimization. You might have an overarching page that talks about everything that you do, but sitting underneath it, I would definitely separate them out into different products and or services, because that makes it much easier for search engines to know that that's what you're selling on that page. So you're likely to come up more in search results for smelly candles near me. Okay, so that's that.
To answer Kate's question, is it okay to have shop rather than services because they're an online shop? Absolutely.
Yeah, I might also, though, within that is I might, as a proviso, I might have a few things in there about, you know, something that overarches all of the things that you sell. So it might just be, and you might even, if you wanted to, depending on what you're selling, is you could break them down into different things. So I'm just thinking about Rachel Emma, who does the school uniforms. So she might have cardigans, skirts, trousers, blouses, that kind of thing. So it's just an easy way for people getting to what they want faster. Anything else there? Anything else popped in?
Nigel, you mentioned scrolling is one of the his bugbears, and I've had the thought of just keeping the content to one page to avoid scrolling.
Well, if it's all on one page, you will have to scroll. And yeah, the one-page websites are absolutely fine, but you'll find very quickly that you run out of the capacity to share what you need to share, and you will be building pages that sit somewhere in the back that you'll be having links through to. I know, because I've had one myself, and it works for a while, but then after a while it doesn't. You're much better having more pages with less content on than having something that people have to scroll all the way through. I just wanted to say here as well, one thing to think about, particularly of your pages, is that your pages sit, I would say, within 3 chunks. Okay, so you have your header section, which is where your menu might be, and then you'll have, like I say, an image and perhaps a call to action. Then you'll have your copy. And then you'll have your footer section, which will probably have your address. It might have links through to your terms and conditions, your privacy policy, those kinds of things. What I want you to think about in terms of your website is that top section, if we were thinking real estate, that top section is Mayfair. Okay, the middle section is Chelsea, and the bottom section is the Old Kent Road. Because actually it's that top section where you encourage people to take action in the first place. So it has to be engaging, it has to be eye-catching, it has to be something that gets them to do something, but it also has to pull them down the page so that they're there to read whatever you've put on there. If they get down to the bottom, it doesn't really matter, because that's where you put all of the odds and sodsy bits. But really, the less you have to get people to scroll, the better. But actually, if you're using buttons or call to action sections on your website, better. It will actually take people to the bits you want them to see, so that they can make valuable and valid decisions about where to go. Okay.
I think that answers Sarah's question actually in chat about what you put on the homepage. Nigel meant one screen rather than scrollable website cafes. So he was thinking, should his website just be literally one screen to avoid people having to scroll? But
one screen of what?
Yeah, it's hard.
Because this is the thing that I want, that you need to think about, is that the vast majority of internet activity happens on a handheld device. So, and this is, I was looking at some stats yesterday, and since 2016, the use of internet on handheld devices has gone up by 229%. So people are using this. So when you're designing, you need to think mobile first. What is going to be the engagement on that? Because most phones, and 80%, yeah, that does include tablets, but actually of that 80%, about 60% of that is smartphones. So you're looking at something that's like a 7-inch screen. So you might be thinking about people using it on a desktop, but actually a large proportion of people will be using it on a mobile device. So you need to think about its usability in that way. So that sort of gets away from the thing about designing it so that people can see one page on a screen. Also, I mean, Father Christmas bought me a new computer. I've got a 24-inch screen now. I had 17 before. What I can see on my screen is far bigger than I could before. So it doesn't quite work that way. Okay.
Nigel McCartney asked, we have our individual real-time availability of key staff showing on our contact page. Potential customers can chat, call, video call directly from the site. Which page should that be on?
I'm just, if it works on that page, that's absolutely fine, but I might be inclined to have a page specifically for like real-time chat, rather than just the contact page, which is where you might have a contact form and your phone number and those kinds of things. So I might be showing it as almost as a service rather than necessarily just a contact.
Yeah, or another way you could do it is have a chatbot messenger type pop up to say, talk to one of our key staff now, and that redirects you to that page.
Yeah, the only thing I'd make sure of is that the pop-up works well on a mobile device, because some are better than others. But that would be my ideal thing, is actually having it as, you know, when I go to my anything, you know, like I'm thinking about my web hosts, for example, they have a nice little chat option, bottom right hand corner on a desktop. It shows up really clearly on my phone when I go onto that, and it opens up a nice box so people can have that conversation straight away. So yeah, that's actually really quite a nice idea, Emma. If you can tie it into recording it in the back end, so you know, if it was a Facebooky kind of one, it comes up in Messenger, whereas some of the other chatbots will actually populate, say, an Excel spreadsheet for you, or something like that. That would work really well, because then you'd actually have a record of the conversations too.
Nigel Austin, we can't get into debate about what you and your wife are going to buy, whether it's a new laptop or not. So we'll let you have that conversation at home.
Nigel, give me a ring and I'll tell you the one that I got, but we can't be seen to advertise. Oh, I think we'll leave it. So following on from this thing, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. People that use the web are becoming more and more sophisticated. So there are certain things that we need to be aware of. And I just did this for a bit of fun, really, for after a bit of a break. So some of the things that perhaps we need to avoid, something that looks a little bit homemade. There are plenty of options out there that can allow it not to look homemade, but things like massive menus like this, what looks like a really homemade logo, which is taking up far too much room. All of these kinds of things are not necessarily, don't necessarily give website visitors trust in the company. Oh my gosh, and there are these out there, you know, this is not unusual. I know quite a few that do this, but yeah, this is just, way too much. I mean, for one thing, the font is too small, but you know, you need to be aware of these kinds of things. What's this? Yeah, this is just really the bizarrest website I've ever found. And then there's this one, which is actually, you know, on first glance looks really quite nice, but I found it incredibly hard to read the text because of the nature of the font that was used. And going back to that thing I said about mobile, when I checked their mobile version, you know, the little 3 lines on top of each other, the thing that's called the hamburger symbol that works on mobile devices. So when you hit it, the menu should drop down. Every time I hit it, it wasn't functioning. So I couldn't actually work my way around their website on a mobile device. So just a few things to be aware of. I don't think that these ones necessarily pull people in or get them to do something. And going back to what we said right at the beginning, we want people to do something. We want people that visit our website, we want to convert them in some way. We want them to become fans. We want them to become customers. So that's the sort of thing that I would think of. So I thought I would share those with you. Right, so next bit. Here are some that I think are the complete opposite. And I wanted to share this one with you because I absolutely love Susie and what Susie's doing at the Simply Cake Co, Norfolk-based company, Kings Lynn-based. And if you're a fan of tray bakes, go and check her out because she delivers them through your letterbox. And for me, you know, it does what it says on the tin. She's got a really good image there showing precisely what happens with her cakes, telling you what you need to do now, which is shop now. And then if you have a look at that top section, you can see some of the lovelies, and there are, you know, ways of finding your way through her website as well, which I think is really it's a nice, clear, clean website, where you're not in any doubt about what she does and what you should do as a visitor. This is another one. This is very much an e-commerce site. And, you know, Beauty Flash are there to sell you beauty products by top known brands at reduced prices, and there's nothing that they're hiding. They're actually showing you this stuff. You know, if you want Declé, or if you want Dermalogica or Elemis or something like that, here it is. We're selling it. I've got no problem about finding. Right at the top there, I can choose my brand. So if I type in Elemis, I can actually go and find out precisely what they've got. And hey presto, it can be in my shopping basket and with me within less than a week. So it's very much the whole Ronseal kind of thing about it doing what it does. Doing what it says on the tin, and I have to share this one because this is one of my clients, and this is a lovely Chris, and Chris actually builds websites and things, so he's absolutely lovely, and you know, he's saying what he does. You know, I help you stand out online, and what I really like, picking up on something that Emma was speaking about earlier, is that right underneath his heading, okay, there is this thing that says, do you want to get a hold of this list of how to get your website prepped, you know, before you do it? I shouldn't be telling you this, should I, because we're on this session, but he's one of my clients. And I just thought, you know, there's no question here. This is what I do, and if you want to engage with me, here's something you can engage with me with, if that makes grammatical sense. And so this is the sort of thing that Emma and I advocate. It's not around it is around something looking good, obviously, but it's not about fudging things. It's not about making it overly complicated. Make it easy for people to find out who you are, what you do, and what you want them to do next. Chris obviously wants them to download this cheat sheet. So that's very much that. Anything you wanted to add in there, Emma? You missed
the obvious fudge brownie thing there, but anyway.
They are amazing, folks.
No,
yes.
They're worth moving to Norfolk for, to be frank.
Absolutely, yeah. Emma and I first met Susie probably going on for 2 years ago now, when we did a training course actually in Kings Lynn, and she brought samples. So yeah, anybody that comes to any of our face-to-face training courses, just remember this: if you ever do and you make something, you have to bring samples. There's no question about that. So this what I want to do was show you those as opposed to the ones I've just shown you, because that's the difference that we're looking at. Okay, and I will say, you know, Chris's image on his website is a stock image, whereas obviously Susie's had photographs taken for hers because it's a branded thing. But you can get away with some really decent stock images if, you know, like me, you can't get out and get a photo shoot done. So
Nigel McCartney's just given everybody a fab offer. So if you're looking for a local geographic number on your website, talk to Nigel McCarthy, who can do an 01604 number. Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. So, oh, and you know, if you do want a copy of this, it's something that Emma and I put together to help people sort of question themselves as they go through the process. You know, please just email us and we'll make sure you get a copy of that. That's absolutely fine. It's just a way of getting you to think, say, slightly differently about how you may lay out your website and the kinds of priorities that you might put on it. So that's just to back up what we're doing there. So for me, I'm always about usability and accessibility. Yes, it needs to look nice, but it needs to work. And the other side of things about accessibility is to do with things like the colors that you use and the fonts that you use. So anything you want to say there about usability, Emma, because I know that you're really hot on the user journey. I suppose that's the easiest thing to say. So I was going to say, you'll know whether it's working or not when you look at your Google Analytics. And I know it's really, really tempting when you see all this data to think, yeah, I'll look at that when I've got more time. And obviously more time never comes, because the one thing us business owners haven't got is oodles of time. But it's really worth spending time looking at your Google Analytics. And if you haven't got that loaded on your website, chat to Kathy and I, because Google Analytics is going to show you what happens when someone comes to your website, where they go next and where they drop off. And it's fascinating because you'll be able to track that user journey. What pages are sticky, i.e. what pages pages keep people on them for a long time, which pages get people just to bounce off straight away. And when you know that, then you can refine, then you can test, and then you can do cool stuff like split testing, looking at different designs of pages and looking at how people interact with that page for longer, for shorter, where do they go after. So do check it. I'm going to be a nerd, but do check your Google Analytics, and if you do struggle looking at that data and what it really means to your business, give us a shout.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is going back to the question that was asked earlier about perhaps blogging or managing the website regularly is a bit of a faff. The fact is, this is an integral part of your business. So it is as important, your website is as important, if not more important, than your best customer, because it is the thing that helps to bring your best customer in. So it does need a little bit of TLC. If you can only manage things once a month, then make sure you diarize once a month for all of this stuff. So have an afternoon once a month where you look at your Google Analytics, go in and look at the website, double check that everything is working properly. Click your buttons, folks, because you'll be surprised how often, I don't know, it's Gremlins, I think, how often a button becomes a non-clickable. So for some reason, the link isn't working fully, and so these kinds of things you need to check on. Is it Google Search Console, Emma, is the one that gives you the regular update in terms of what different pages are doing?
Google Search Console will also tell you what pages are broken, where you've got broken,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So again, if you haven't got that installed on the website, chat to us. And we're getting brilliant questions in. I'm loving all the questions.
And I will say, Google Search Console is is brilliant, because a few months ago I got a message through from it saying that on one of my pages, and this goes back to the difference between desktop and mobile, one of my pages, the conversion of the page, the font, when it appears on a mobile, the font was too small for people to read. And then I went back in and I checked and I thought, oh yeah, I've set that in a font that's actually too small. I wouldn't have known that necessarily, but they actually picked up on that, and that has an impact on my Google ranking. So Google will say, oh, people can't read that page, therefore we're going to push that right down in terms of ranking. So yeah, all of this usability stuff, as Emma said, making sure that you've got your Google Analytics set up, that you've set up an account with Google Search Console, so you get that kind of stuff coming through. Keeping the navigation simple, to the point, does what it says on the tin. Your content doesn't need to be overcomplicated and bells and whistles and all of that kind of stuff. It basically needs to say, the problems that you solve. I think you're looking at least 300 words on a page to make it a page in Google's eyes. And you need to make sure that you are using your sort of keyword or key phrase on that page, which is one of the reasons why I say separate out services, because if you're offering yoga and Pilates, I'd have a yoga page and a Pilates page, because it might confuse it if you start talking about both things on the same page. Calls to action, nice big colourful button. Don't have your calls to action as a little hyperlink. Put it as a great big button that people can press, and keep it readability. Make sure that, and this goes into accessibility, make sure that there are gaps between the lines in terms of the text. And I think as a standard on my site, I'm trying to think about my font sizes, but my general font size on my website is actually 18. So, and that shows up okay on a mobile. So really you don't go for 12 because people just won't be able to read it. So yeah, so there's that. The accessibility kind of thing as well. I want to just mention colors, because some people like to design their site where they might put a light font on top of a darker background. And one of the things that I will say about that, although you find it a lot in design type things, it's really hard to read. I mean, I haven't got a visual impairment as such. I'm very, very, very short-sighted, but I can't read websites where there's white text on a black background. So I will click straight out, and that applies to a lot of people. It's also really hard on people's eyes. So having a dark grey font with not even a pure white in the background, but an off-white is actually much easier for people to read, which means that they're likely to stay on there longer. Alt tags, now these are the descriptions that you put behind the images on your website, because remember, Google can't see. So when there's a picture, if you haven't described it, it won't know what it is. You can use these quite well in order to include things like the keywords for that page. So for example, if you've got a contact page, then the alt tag is the contact page of Acme website, or whatever it might be. But these alt tags actually have another purpose, is that if people do have visual impairments, their readers actually read a description of the image rather than necessarily just skipping over it. So it's really quite important that you, I always say that if you consider disability first, it makes it work for everybody, rather than necessarily going back and having to do work on that afterwards. Okay, so those two things I think are really quite crucial. Anything to add, Emma, or have we got any questions there?
So we've answered the one about alt tags. Matt asks, how important is a search function for an e-commerce site? Is it worth implementing one to improve user experience? Absolutely. People want to search for what they want to buy. And I'd also encourage some AI in there as well. So if you like this, you might like that as well. Do the Amazon model. So yeah, highly recommend that. And Bonnie, can you recommend any good Google Analytics training? I'm going to put my hands up. Yes, Bonnie, come along to one of our sessions. Really practical, just like there's loads of time to ask questions, and we actually go through the data there and then, so you can absolutely see live examples. So do feel free to get in contact, and we'd love to help you on Google Analytics training.
Absolutely. And I just want to pick up on the search thing as well, and actually having a general search button, for example, in your blog area is actually really useful too, because it means that if people are searching for content on a particular topic, it will actually bring that forward. So yeah, I'm a huge believer in keeping it simple and straightforward and making it as easy as possible for people.
Vincent asked, what are the rules around data protection cookie warnings? So yeah, we all need to have cookie and privacy policies on our websites nowadays. If you want any specific GDPR questions answered, Kathy and I work with a brilliant GDPR consultant. We're going to be doing a training workshop on that, but do feel free and to get in contact, and we can pass you his details, because he can explain GDPR in a way that I can't, to be frank.
Yeah. And I think with a lot of the, what I'd call the sort of like plug and play websites, so things like WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, quite often they'll have a plug-in, so this bit of code which is a cookie policy, so you just put that in there and it will make sure that it appears every time that people come on. Yeah, and as Emma said, you've got to have terms and conditions and privacy. The links to those pages, I don't have them as live pages up on the menu, but the links to those pages are in the footer area of the website, so people can click on those and go and have a look at them at any time that they want. So those are legalities, definitely.
Janet says she had a frustrating experience on the Standard Life Aberdeen website. Yeah, and in America, there's been lots of fines for websites that aren't accessible. So I see that happening more and more as we go on. Graham says he has 2 domains to launch. I've read that Google doesn't like you directing these back to your prime business website. What I would do link back, absolutely. I would tell Google which links are more important by, I can never say this word, canonical link. Basically that tells Google which links should be ranked for. I can explain that in more detail, but definitely hyperlink each of those websites to each other so that you actually get a follow link. Definitely do that, but tell Google what's more important and what should be ranking, because what you don't want is duplicate content, which I think that question relates to, but happy to talk about that in more detail. Sarah Bush, is a cookie policy a legal requirement? It is now, isn't it, Kathy? Yeah.
You have to tell people what you're doing with their data. I mean, if you don't have anything that collects cookies, maybe there is a question mark, but actually there should be things on your site that does do that. I mean, for example, so that you can remarket to people. But yes, it's no hardship. It's not go and have a look at the one on my site. It's nothing. It's not like a 20-page document or something. It's like a half a paragraph. So yeah, it's not massively difficult to create.
Does cookie policy need to have its own page, or can it be within the privacy? It can be within the privacy. You can have.
It can be, but I use a plugin that when you click on it, it just brings up a couple of sentences that says this is what my cookie policy is. So it's really simple. But yeah, you do need in your privacy policy, you do need to actually have a section which is cookies. So you'd actually have something in there, definitely.
I feel that we need to do a GDPR workshop.
Absolutely. Get Ian in here. Okay. So a few key points here. Come on. Yeah. So just to summarize some of the things that we said, we're making sure that your design is appropriate, and that it's not taking people away, it's not distracting, it's not getting in their way, it's helping them access the content, and it's showcasing the content in a way that makes them want to consume more of it. So again, the functionality needs to be there, but the form needs to be attractive. But you don't have to, go to the. I had a client once who had almost had a website for 2 years because they were getting so obsessed about the look. And I think that these are the kinds of things that can be developed over time. And you can develop them, for example, as Emma said, by using things like Google Analytics, finding what's working and what isn't working, and then making changes accordingly. So I think for me that's a key thing. Responsive design, that's what we mean about think mobile first. It needs to work well across each of the devices. Now, a lot of the builders allow you to have where you can actually see sort of when you're designing in the back end what it looks like on a desktop and what it also looks like on a mobile device. So you can actually pop backwards and forwards before you determine that the design of your page or whatever is exactly the way that you want it. So this is one of the reasons why if you're managing a lot of your own web stuff, I would say that you don't want anything that might not be sort of designed but comes up from an off-the-shelf thing, because the off-the-shelf stuff has got a lot of this built in. If you're having something built specifically, that won't necessarily be there. I use a builder called Thrive Themes, and that allows me to look at what my pages will look like both on the desktop, on a tablet device, but also on a mobile device, so I can flip backwards and forwards and make sure that it's working properly. Minimalist, showcase, not an archive. I worked with a physiotherapy company some years ago now, and they had over 400 pages on their site. And there were loads of brilliant articles on there, which I would have turned into downloadable sheets and lead magnets and various things like that, because, I don't want to search through 400 pages for information about a bad back. I actually want to download something that says, have you got a bad back? Download this thing. It's not somewhere that is necessarily, unless you're the British Library, I suppose, it's not somewhere where it's necessarily you're archiving stuff. It's something that's up to date and is kept up to date. User friendly, consistent. We've said so. Your colours, your fonts, and I think the key thing here, language. I mean, Emma's a huge, massive copy person. She can come up with copy like that. It takes me hours, but it's actually having this way of expressing your company in the written word. So, and the classic example I always use is the exclamation mark. I don't know if it comes across in this thing, but I have a lot of exclamation marks in the way that I speak. Emma, not so much. So you'll never find an exclamation mark on her content, but you will find loads on mine because that's the way I am. And you'll find loads of ... What's next? And I think this is the kind of thing that we need to be aware of. What's the personality of our business? And the language that we use needs to reflect that as well. I put here about content being able to consume and to share. So, for example, on blogs and things, you can have things called social share buttons. And what that allows people to do is if they really like that blog, if there's a Facebook button up there, they can click on it. And it's not to come and like your Facebook page. It's for them to actually share that content directly onto their Facebook profile. So you can actually build that in really, really quite easily. Oh, sorry, wrong way. Oh, what's happening here? My mouse. Clear calls to action. Tell people what you want them to do. Yes, give it to me. I want a copy. Discover more. Read this. Learn to do that. Don't, I always say, don't be British about it. Don't be sort of back on the back foot about it. If you want somebody to do something, tell them that you want them to do it. And I think, yeah, that whole clarity and consistency of brand is actually really quite crucial. Anything there, Emma?
Just echoing your point, like we want our website to get us new customers, and brand awareness is great. We want it to do stuff. So tell them what you want them to do when they get onto your website. Don't download this free guide. Sign up to my tips guide. Yeah. The minute I changed my nicey to approach to conversion approach, I've seen the direct results into my business. So yeah, don't be afraid.
Yeah, I think if you take away anything from what we're saying today, and hopefully there will be a few things, I think a key underlying thing that we want to get across is the conversion focused website. It's very much about it being part of the business and making your business work. And I think the situation that we found ourselves in the last 12 months, if you see quite a lot of businesses that are still sort of doing well, this is what they've done. The whole thing has been about, okay, it's a new world, it's a new model, but actually I can use my website to deliver this more effectively.
Nigel Austin has just brought up a brilliant point about what to do about hosting your website. So who owns your website? Is it your website designer? Do you own it? Where do you host it? How do you move it if ever you want to change hosting? I'm going to let Kathy talk about that really quickly, but that is a brilliant question, because we know so many clients that come to us and go, oh God, I had a website designer, I've fallen out with them, haven't got access to my website anymore, I don't know who hosts it, I haven't got the password to my hosting, help. And then obviously retrospectively it's a lot harder to unravel all of that stuff. So brilliant point. Thank you so much for raising that, Nigel.
It is the bugbear of my life, and it has been a bugbear of my life simply because, and this is why I got into websites in the first place, is the fact that my first website, more moons ago than I care to remember, that's the situation I found myself in. Something that didn't work, and I couldn't get in and make it work because I hadn't been given everything. Now, this is yours. This is your business. Your website is your shop. It is part of your intellectual property. It is part of the business. You own it. So you need to really be clear with anybody that is building your website that the domain name is owned by you, and you need to be listed as the owner of that domain name. The hosting, once you own your domain name, you can move your hosting anywhere that you want. So I use a really nice company here based in West Norfolk. They're really good, and I have absolutely no problem with my website. But you can actually host on platforms where you can buy domains from. So one of the platforms we quite like is one called TSO Host. They're really nice. They've got a really good support mechanism. But you own the website, and you have to own it. So you have to have full administrator control of the back end of your website. You need to know the login details, you need to know the passwords. It doesn't mean that you go in there and you fiddle faddle around all of the time, but you do. It's exactly the same as you know, say for example you had a car and somebody says, well, I'll only lend you the keys every now and again. You know, this is very much, this is your thing. So yes, own it. because, you know, when you're rich and famous and your business is doing brilliantly and you decide to sell it, it's an asset. So yeah, most definitely. But that's my biggest bugbear. You're on mute, lovey.
So it's comes in, so I'm really conscious of drilling and banging. Can I just add on that, not all hosting is created equal, and I had a problem a few years ago where the hosting package I was on just wasn't good enough, so my website was really slow to load and my bounce rate was just like ridiculously stupid, and then I changed it and it's helped.
But that's where Google Analytics helps, because it gives you that info.
Precisely, and there's a really easy free tool called Speed Test as well, so you can check how quickly your website loads, and if you find it lagging, do bring it up with your hosting company, because they should be able to help.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so these are actually really crucial things. Okay, so we wanted to just mention SEO, but this is very much like a broad brush. And we're actually talking really about what we call on-page SEO. But search engine optimization, the definition, process of ensuring a website can be found in search engines for words and phrases relevant to what the site is offering. And actually, I'd add on there what is on that page. So, you know, if somebody is, what was I searching for the other day? I was searching for, sorry, this is really sad. I was searching for cushion covers near me. So I wanted to find companies near me that sold cushion covers. So this is what we're looking for. Search engine optimization is the thing that helps websites come up in front of you when you put those kinds of searches into a search engine. So that's what we're looking at here. So as I said, we're looking at the on-page stuff. So what we mean by that is the words actually on the page. There are search engine optimization things that you can do technically behind the scenes. But as we've said, we're not the technicians. We're not the behind the scenes people. We're basically what you see. So the front is very much where we're at. So three things. Okay, the first one is around content. Okay, and this is about using words and phrases that people are already using to search for products and services like yours. And this is where the search engines themselves come in, because you can use them to search for products and services like you sell to see what people are searching for. Anything you want to add in there, Emma? Because I know that you do a lot of this with people.
Yeah, so there's a great tool called Google Trends, and it's free to use. And if you type in your product and stroke service or your industry, it's going to give you the search queries that people use to find what they want in Google. So that's one brilliant tool. The next one is, as Kathy said, just in Google, if you type in, let's just say fudge brownies, Google have this thing called a snippet, and that's the questions people ask around fudge brownies. And that is brilliant info, because what you can do, you can use that snippet to create a blog around it. So it could be something like best recipe for a chocolate brownie. That would be a typical snippet. Just use that, because that's what people are already searching for. Google's done the hard work for you, so just use that. And the other thing is, go onto your competitors' sites, look at what they're using in terms of their blogs and their keywords, and use a keyword tracker. I've got a free download, actually. I'll give it to Kayleen to send out after this session. You can easily work out what your competitors are ranking for in terms of the words that they're using. Like, let's not make this as hard for ourselves. Let's use other people's hard work and jump on that, because it's all out there. It's just a matter of looking to see what's ranking and why it's ranking.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I'll throw in here is that Google is conscious that large companies have the money to spend on expertise, whereas smaller companies don't. So what they're trying to do by creating these tools, and actually by the way they actually lay out the search page when you do a search on Google, is to try and give smaller businesses a bit of a heads up in terms of, so if you're searching for that, this is the kind of stuff that people are searching for. These are the actual words they're using. And one of the things I did myself last year was that with my weekly blog, I actually made sure that the title of my blog was almost matched exactly to a search phrase that somebody had used looking for something on that particular topic. And it was amazing the difference it actually made to the engagement on my blog. So use those things, but make sure that you're using the words and phrases that people are actually physically looking for, rather than the ones you want to give them. I think that's the other way around. Yeah, I think the next thing is make it easy for people to share it. As I said, you can have social share buttons on your blog. You can have social share buttons on your pages if you want. So people can actually share that directly into their social profile. So, hey, LinkedIn, I just saw this on Joe Bloggs' website. I thought this was really, really useful. It just makes it a hell of a lot easier. People are really inclined to click a button, and it just takes the effort out of it. If you put an effort-based thing in front of people, that's when you start getting people drop off. If you make it easy, so it's just a click of a button, that's when you get them to engage more.
There's a trick there. Rather than Joe Bloggs, you should have said Joe Wicks.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to get starting on my exercise on Monday morning, 9 o'clock. And yeah, it's just keep doing it. I mean, it's this repetitive thing. The more we do it, the easier it becomes, and the more our websites love it, really.
Just going to answer a Kate question here. Do you have a COVID policy link in the header or footer on the home content? For me, right now, I'd have that as a button, because you want that to be upfront and visible.
Yeah, that's what you'll find with a lot of websites, is that they will have put a button towards the top where they put a statement in it, a short statement, but if you want more information, just click on the button and it takes them to a page where it's fuller.
On your homepage, Kate, put that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the kind of thing that I'd say about on-page SEO when we're thinking about pages. Oh, I just spotted a spelling mistake. Really sorry. On the page, as I said before, one key topic, one key idea. If you do more than one thing, you need more than one page, and 300 words is a minimum, because that's what Google sees as a page. So you need to get some wording in there. And I think actually as well, if you are writing 300, 400, don't have it as just one paragraph. Break the content down a little bit as well. That'll make a difference. In terms of your blogs on your site, pre-plan it. I mean, Emma and I had a session with a client yesterday afternoon where we planned our stuff up until the end of March, in terms of what's going to be going on her site, so that she can be in front of herself. And it means that she's not always scrabbling around then for oh gosh, what should I do today? What should I put on there? What should my topic be about this week or this month? Okay. Any more questions come in there on that, Emma?
Yeah, okay. So I'd have your COVID button kind of top right up the top, personally, so really visible, because people need to know now whether we're open, whether we're clicking delivery, that kind of thing. And Sarah asked, what's the ideal word count for a blog post? I would say 350 upwards. Engaging content is engaging content, and people will read longer. People are reading like 10,000 word articles on LinkedIn nowadays, so don't be afraid of overwriting as long as it's engaging. But I would say start from 350. Personally, for me, I tend to do mine around 500. Yeah,
500 to 600 for mine. And I always think that if you've got 2,000 words in you on a topic, but that's all you've got for the month, I'd make it 400 or 500 word pieces. So that would be the way that I would approach it. But don't be afraid to share more. And the other thing is, if you're somebody who works or feels more confident doing things, say on video or podcasting, don't forget that what you can actually do with that content is that the audio track, you can actually have that transcribed. So that means that that could then go into your blog space along with the video and or the podcast. So you've got words and images and sounds, so that you're sort of killing lots of birds with one stone. So it doesn't all have to be what I'd call flat written content. You can share other things as well. Okay, and you know, people will engage with different things. Some people like the written word, some people like listening, some people like viewing, but again, because Google reads words and doesn't hear and doesn't see, that's why if you're sharing any of those things, the transcription works really well. Okay. The last thing I wanted us to cover on this section is this concept of metadata. And metadata is information about the information that you're sharing. It's the easiest way to describe it. And most of the sort of preset platforms will have a way of you actually creating this for you. So the basic way to think about it is that when you do a search on Google and you see that snippet of information which gives you the title perhaps of the page or the blog, underneath is a URL, and then there's like 1.5 sentences of text that highlights the phrases that person has searched for. You can actually predetermine what all of those things are, and that's what we talk about as being your metadata. So on a lot of spaces, I mean, what I wanted to show you was this one. This is just for a blog that I wrote just before Christmas. And what you can see here is that in terms of the SEO ranking, I made sure I've got the green light in terms of the content of the title, the length of the title, and the fact that the title includes the focus key phrase that I've decided upon. And it also shows that in my meta description, so 1.5 sentences, it actually includes those words that are in my key phrase as well. And if that's what it would look like on a mobile, if you have a look at the same thing in terms of the way, if I look at it in terms of what it would look like on the desktop view, so I can actually see this at the back end of my website. So I'm doing this myself, and then if I go into Google itself and I search for that blog, you can see that it's actually picking up on the things that are there. So this is what we're looking at in terms of metadata. It's controlling that. You can do that for blogs, but you can also do it for every page on your website, so that you make sure that the page is registered for that particular keyword or key phrase, and that there's a description that sits underneath it that tells people that that's what this page or what this blog is about. So and that really is a lot of people aren't doing this, which is why their stuff never gets onto page 1. So you know, I would get you to have a look at the back of your website and see whether that's, if you've got a WordPress website, I think if you've got Squarespace and Wix as well, it's just a plugin. If you're using something bespoke, you might need to talk to the person who created the bespokeness for you. So I just wanted to add that in there. Anything you wanted to add on there, Emma?
No, all good.
Okay, the very last thing I just wanted to add is that, you know, Emma's mentioned some of the other tools like Google Trends, and we mentioned Google Search Console, Google Analytics. You can create an account, you just link that to your website, and so it will start collecting the data, and you can go in there and check that out. I mean, even down to the fact of almost to the, well, you can go really deep down into where the IP address of the machine that the person is using is based. So if you're, I don't know, if you're based in Kings Lynn and everybody that's searching for you is based somewhere down in Cornwall, you'll know maybe you might need to make a few changes. But it's a really great tool that gives you loads of information. If you've got the Facebook Pixel installed, that'll aid you with your Facebook advertising, and then you've got things like Twitter Analytics. All of the things have an analytical end to them, so that you can sort of test your website against what it is that they should and are doing for you. Anything you wanted to add in there, Emma?
No, good. I'm just answering some of the questions.
Okay, well that's good, because I got to this bit.
So Jackie Plant says, I struggle to get the green smiling Yoast. Is there something you can check to get the orange to green? So I would say that each bit of the Yoast needs to be completed in order to get to green. If you've got a specific example that you're struggling with, screenshot it, send it over to Kathy and I can look at how to get you orange to green, because each case is in case by case basis. It's all individual, so I probably can't answer why it is for that particular blog, but if you screenshot me, I'm happy to help, and I can look at why it's not orange, why it's not green for you right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we've answered all the other questions.
Okay, that's smashing. Unless there's any other bits and bobs, I just wanted to point out, folks, that there's a couple of things coming up. Sorry, I'll just do this and then we'll come back to it. So I'm doing something on Monday for Enterprise Nation, actually, on moving out of employment and into running a business. I've got my meetup next Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, and then Emma and I are running a session on the 22nd of January called #101, and it's not just Instagram. Okay. So I think that's the key. So those things are coming up. So what I'll do is I'll stop sharing my screen, and then we can pick up on any final questions.
I'm going to answer Nigel's. Is there anything on analytics for LinkedIn? Yeah, LinkedIn does give you analytics. You have to look quite deeply at where to find them, and they're not as extensive as something like Google, but there are analytics, and you can see who is searching for you on LinkedIn, what the seniority level is, and how people are consuming your content. How do you register for those meetups? I think the links will be in the slides that Kayleen will send round.
Yeah, and if not, just pop over to my website, because there's like a training page on my website, and everything that I do is on there, and the links are in there. So yeah, is that everything?
Sorry, it's hard to like talk and
so many places
reply.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well. So I've just taken, thank you, David, I've just taken the full stop off the survey link. So as you can see, I've put a link to the survey. We just asked for you to pop along. It'll only take a couple of minutes just so we can get some feedback. That would be amazing. I forgot to say, obviously, thank you before I went into my spiel. So thank you so much, Kathy and Emma. As usual, you have such a vast knowledge. I don't know about anyone else, but I've got so much in my head that I need to write down and make a note. As previously said, I will be sharing the presentation. I'll also be, I'll hold fire sending that until Emma sends me the free download that she mentioned. So I'll include that in the email as well. Kathy and Emma are also doing a lot more. I'm excited, a lot more events with us during January and March. So I did include their next one earlier on in the conversation, but I'll also include the full list of events that they're doing with us, so you can click on and book your place.
They're not on my website yet, which is one of the things I have to do over the weekend. So that's...
I was going to say, is there anything else you want to add before we close?
For me,
thank you to Nigel.
Yeah.
That's made my day. Thank you, Nigel.
And I think, thanks everybody for coming along, and thanks for asking the questions, because, things like who should own my website? Should I show a mobile phone or a landline phone number on my website? All of these kinds of things are so intrinsic to making this a usable tool for your business, but quite often they get overlooked. And I will say that, just to reiterate, if you go back to the point about what your website is for, what you want it to do, it will make it a hell of a lot easier for you to make the right kinds of decisions over the type of website you've got, the look and the feel of your website, what it does, and how it interacts with people. But even if you haven't got one at the moment and you're thinking about starting small, if you can get one page that's got your photograph on it, a bit of information about how you help people, what it is that you do, and then a big button so that they can get in contact with you, that will be a great place to start. And then you can always build up from there. Don't think it has to be all singing and all dancing from day one, because it doesn't.
Emma, anything you want to add?
I'd say, yeah, don't be scared of it. Do it, test it, measure it, have a go. It's not got to be like big pressure. Especially now, none of us need it in lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it becomes infectious. I'm a tinkerer. I have to stop myself tinkering. So yeah, unlike somebody who didn't want to use the website, I just have to get my hands out of it.
Perfect. So thank you again for joining us on this Friday morning, our first one back, and obviously back with a bang with the lovely Kathy and Emma. So yeah, thank you so much. I hope you have a lovely lunch. If you're doing dry January, congratulations. Let's hope you can stick it out till the end of January. If you started it and given up, that's fine. It doesn't matter. You tried it, we got locked down, it's okay. And I don't know about you, but after the session, I want to walk away and play Monopoly, because Kathy has some great analogies with the whole Mayfair, I think it was Mayfair Park Lane and
Mayfair, Sloane Square, and the Old Kent Road.
I just love it. I love your analogies. It, like, for someone like me, the way you describe it, I'm then like, oh yeah, I get it, completely understand. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, have a great afternoon, and yeah, if you play Monopoly, let me know, because I really want to as well. So yeah, enjoy your almost afternoon, and hopefully we'll see you soon. I'll also be including Kathy and Emma's details in the post-event email as well, so feel free, if you've got any questions, they're more than happy to answer them and help you. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you back here soon, and yeah, enjoy your weekend, afternoon. See you later.
Bye all. Bye.